Tom Neale has the next part of the agenda, and he is the difference between you and the open bar. Tom is a fantastic successor. Our management team now, we'll have Tom as our president and an executive committee. I'll let him introduce. Jim Bacon as our executive director. And you've got Libby Klinger, who is going to join us full-time after she graduates, and she is amazing. And so if you please raise your hand and let us acknowledge Libby. Having student interns, which is where Libby is right now, but she will be full-time with us, is a fantastic thing, and it allows us to know even more about this university. Tom, take her away.
Stole my line. I was going to say I'll talk fast because you guys got to be drinking. Do you have the? So you're probably wondering why Homer. This is not Homer Simpson, by the way. Go back to Greek mythology. You remember that he wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey. And the Odyssey, to give you a quick refresher, Odysseus was the king of Ithaca, and he led a coalition of Greek states to defeat Troy. Hell of a battle, very hard war. Thought he'd have a cakewalk going back home. Took 10 years. He fought off a lot of cyclop monsters, who I think are extinct now, aggressive cannibals, and homicidal spirits. If he were alive today, he'd have a trilogy. He'd have Iliad, Odyssey, and Bert. And Bert's journey to the board and on the board makes the Odyssey look like a Caribbean vacation. So, congratulations. So I'm just going to touch briefly on some of the things we're doing on the four pillars. When we formed the group, a lot of us really didn't know each other, and it was really in response to two major events, which I won't go into a lot of detail on. Bert was walking on the lawn, saw the now infamous FUVA sign. I took him back a little bit, went to President Ryan. They did nothing, and he sent an email that went viral. 4 days before that, I'd read the Cavalier Daily on a Friday night, trying to figure out what team we'd lose to the next day in football. And the headline was the Racial Equity Task Force. And it's pretty much everything you saw here, but what got my attention was the contextualization of Thomas Jefferson. So that annoyed me. I stayed up late and sent out a letter Saturday. Within a week, sent out to friends. We had 200 signatures, and I sent it to President Ryan, Dean Groves, and every member of the board, just objecting to that and saying you cannot denigrate the man, judge him in the context of his times. Of course, it got nowhere, but I felt good doing it. Our emails merged, and really within 3 weeks, we had the genesis of Jefferson Council. So we thought it was very important to get focused pretty quickly. We're not a debating society. The four pillars really are not only logical, but that's what we try to focus everything on. I won't regurgitate what we're doing with the students. That was almost by happenstance. Nick is the president of YAF. The lady who was there before, Victoria Spiotto. Is the right term gaslight? Is that the verb for denigrate? They're being gaslighted by, and I mean in a terrible way. We would show the video, except it's so obscene we couldn't do it in a mixed crowd. We saw that, and we took on the students really, to everybody's point, as their wingman. Buddy, where's Buddy? Buddy. I knew Buddy before. My brother's a retired Army colonel, lives here in Charlottesville, and Buddy was a 27-year Navy fighter pilot. In his last, I think, 133 missions over North Vietnam, 900 plus carrier landings. Woke guys don't scare him. Then he got his law degree. He was undergrad too. But Buddy, before we formed, really took on pro bono the defense of a lot of these students. So we brought him onto the Jefferson Council. So long story short, and everybody said this, we're telling the students we're not just here as a philosophical ally. You get in trouble, we've got your back, and we mean it. We've gone to Ryan. We haven't had a huge amount of success with that, but they're hearing us. So if you go by each pillar, the academic environment and intellectual diversity, backing the students and the speakers we have been excellent. I think they're enumerated on your, maybe they're not. Are they up here? Yeah, I won't go over each one of them. But if you look at the people we've gotten, we get conservative but rational people. We're not out to get flamethrowers. So the first two guys we got, Rich Lowy, who's the editor of the National Review, was UVA 90. He brought in Congressman Chip Roy, who's double Wahoo. And the first talk was on the defense of Thomas Jefferson. So we probably got 150 students. And that, to be fair, fair amount of, I'm sure, kids who didn't agree with that. It was very civil. They were masterful in their presentation, and that was the whole point. So each successive speaker we've had, it's not just been on UVA, but very interesting. We had Douglas Murray, who wrote, War in the West. We had him come last month, or a month and a half ago. Mr. Lowry tonight, can't wait for that. And then George Will. So we're getting people of that caliber, and we have verbals from Senator John Kennedy, who's kind of the modern-day Will Rogers. And he's a UVA law grad. You may not know that. But he's fantastic. And Winston Sears has given us a verbal. We got some others. So that alone won't do it. But I don't think I'm exaggerating to say that in 10 years, maybe 15, there not been anybody moderate, much less conservative, as a speaker on campus. And as a quick aside, we pay for this. I mean, that's my ask to you guys: support us, give us money. Some of you said don't do a blank check. Do a blank check. Not payable to me. But the irony of this is we had Mike Pence, and the student body went berserk. Racist, homophobe, yada, yada, yada. Didn't want him here, picketing. After that happened, in a public forum, President Ryan said, as proof of our intellectual diversity, we had Mike Pence. Hello? We had Mike Pence. We had to pay rent to Old Cabell Hall. We paid half of Mike Pence's $75,000 fee. So, they'll get an assisted tackle for not being in the game. But that's what we're doing. We think it's very important. Bert was a little modest on the honor code. I wouldn't say he was solely responsible for that. But he's gone to the head of the honor committee, and I think we've elevated that issue. We're ecstatic that we're back to a real honor code. It had become a timeout for your 5-year-old. Now it's back to having a single sanction, at least as an ultimate situation. The Jefferson legacy, we're fighting that all the time. They haven't yet contextualized them, but a lot of people are denigrating them. I think we've raised enough awareness on that hopefully that won't happen. And then the UNESCO, the lawn of the UNESCO heritage site, that was actually a pretty concrete W. As a result of what we did, we think, they tightened the code for having signs on the lawn doors. We prefer none, but they confined it to a smaller area. Didn't specifically say, don't say FUVA, although you'd think that'd go without saying. The next fall, 6 kids put up a similar sign and they were taken down. So, sad to say that's a victory, but it was. That's not going to happen again. So, other thing we've done, and you'll hear them later, we've reached out to third-party groups like Common Sense Society, who you hear speaking during the cocktail hour. Very like-minded group. They're the reason we got George Will. They helped us get him. And we're a member, and this is very important. You'll hear Chuck Davis, the head of ASSA, speak. There were 5 colleges, universities, that formed ASSA to begin with. Us, Cornell, Davidson, Princeton, W&L. And I had already kind of informally started talking to W&L and VMI. VMI is now a member. It's up to 16. Harvard's in there. We have a pipeline of about 15 or 20. And these are groups like ours going after the same thing. Alumni Free Speech Alliance. Yeah, good point. Yeah. So it's a real group, and we were at a 2-day conference at the Mayflower Thursday and Friday last week. Went to one last year. And again, it's not just exchanging ideas. We're having seminars with each other. Really, in some cases, lawsuits are arising, and we're trying to pick which battles to fight. Hopefully, there'll be legal precedents as well as just philosophical ones. So that's extremely important to what we're doing. And I think it tells alumni and the students this battle's far beyond the grounds. I mean, this is a cancer. And one thing, I'll just make this clear if it's not clear. We're not saying we want to make UVA Liberty or Hillsdale. That's not the point. The point is bring it back to the middle. I mean, I'll give you a very quick anecdote. Said this to somebody at our table. My 3rd year, I took, this is 73, economics professor got up, and it was the history of economics. It was going back to Babylon or Babylonians, Peloponnesians. First thing he said is, full disclosure, I'm a Marxist. And he looked like an SNL skit of a 70s professor, big hair, turtleneck, corduroy jacket. Great guy. And it was one of the best classes I took because we had open debate. Nobody screamed. Nobody dropped the F-bomb. It was very open debate, and he not only encouraged it, he demanded it. That's what we need. we're not, absolute last thing we want to do is stifle liberal thought. We want to allow moderate and conservative thought. That's the whole point. And Ann, where are you? Ann is a little surprised before I give my summation for the students. We've got 6 minutes before booze, so we have to.
Okay, I know. So really quick, could Nick Cabrera and Libby Klinger come forward, please? Because as we've been talking about students, this year under, well, Bert and Tom, but we need to give the students a student leadership award. So in chronological order, Nick Cabrera, he'll go first. So this is a student award for last year for all you did, and he took the YAF chapter at UVA to be number 1 in the nation. That's saying something in this time. Yeah, and he was ruthlessly bullied and on social media and in person, and he took a licking and came back ticking. And he,
Timex.
Yes, exactly. And so he really is a comeback kid, and he's done very well. And Libby has continued with. By the way, we wouldn't have this lovely party without her help tonight. And she has been on CRs, and she's very active in her sorority, and she has this ability to see things 360 degrees and implement them. And we are just so grateful for you, and thank you very much.
Now, one of you, at least one of you has to open it.
Yeah,
so
you
can
have
see.
to open
Yes.
it. Yeah. No, you can open it. Oh, okay. You don't have to read the
You can actually use it in 20 minutes, so it's a hit.
Anyway, their leadership, they've also brought in many students to
Yeah.
our group and been terrific communicators. And all these speakers that you've listed, Nick had a lot to do with those.
I think I know what it is.
I think you have one.
It's one of our pillars. Jefferson Cup. Now, one caveat. Do you know what you can put in that? Don't say milk.
Anything you want.
So bourbon is there. You can pour bourbon.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Thank you.
So last comment before drinks. I started off with an analogy to one of the greatest writers in Western civilization, wrote an epic poem. I'm going to have a quote from an epic movie from the last century, and I'd say the best movie ever made. So you probably know which one it is. Animal House. So, no? You don't think that's best? Okay. So at the end of the movie, the Delta House gets creamed. And one of the guys, remember John Belushi, and this is my advice for Bert, says, don't get mad, get even. So don't get mad, get even, Bert. Thank you.